The family of Nick Reiner has someone to blame for what happened in that family, the tragedy that is now going to be on trial with Hollywood celebrities giving their testimonies, affidavits, subpoenas, and more. And guess what, folks? It's not who you would think. It's not Nick they're blaming this for. Hello friends, hello fam, welcome back yet again to another video where we dive into heavy things, but we lift them with the caution and the deference that you desire as we lift conversations even higher than they would be elsewhere. As we go, click the like button, drop a comment down below, let us know your thoughts, and let's talk about who is being blamed for what Nick Reiner allegedly did. It just so happens, apparently, allegedly, to not be him. Ladies and gentlemen, it is no fun covering this, but yet here we are again because it involves a trial that is forthcoming that will likely involve many of your favorite A-list celebrities. And, well, Blast has this one being hosted on Yahoo Entertainment. Nick Reiner likely suffered self-worth issues due to pressure of his famous family, addiction expert reveals. This is by Favor Aragoke. But folks, the headline is not what we care for nay, we say there is something buried in the article which is actually newsworthy as opposed to whatever this is, because we frankly don't care. Well, folks, let me tell you what's going on that's actually newsworthy, okay? We're gonna keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Nick allegedly didn't take his parents' help seriously, okay? And then we're gonna get into what they're blaming this on. Amid Nick's struggles, his parents did their best to support him, including paying for his many costly rehabilitation stays. The article says, however, he was reportedly nonchalant about their efforts, regardless of how much they tried to help him each time. I can't believe that the guy who allegedly ended his parents in a horrific and painful and agonizing way didn't care about their help. I can't believe this. Quote, at the end of the day, Nick didn't take their help seriously. This was true for years and years. His issues were far, far out of his parents' control. One insider told People magazine. Nick lied a lot. He was unreliable, but he was also convincing and intelligent, added the insider about his behavior. Still, according to the source, Nick's parents remained supportive of him till the very end. Quote, his family was empathetic to how much his struggles contributed to his behavior. They never lost hope in him, even when he was scaring them or making their lives harder. And here's where we get into the newsworthiness that we need to tell you about. Nick Reiner's family does not see him as a monster, source claims. Now, folks, we're not going to tell you what it is exactly that Nick did in the way that he ended his parents. That's too graphic, but it was unpleasant, and it was not immediate. Just let that be, okay? So how is the family responding? How is Hollywood responding to this? Prepare yourself. You may need to sit down for this one. This is so out there. Recent reports have emerged indicating that they have expressed opposition to him himself being deleted by the state for what he's done. That penalty, which Nick could face if found guilty, for deleting his parents. According to a source, the family does not see him as a monster, as they feel he needed help for his issues. Quote, they don't see him as a monster, they see him as someone who has failed, a source told Rob Shooters, the Shooter Scoop. Here's what they say. The family reportedly intends to heavily push back on any prosecutorial plans in line with his life ending as the case continues to proceed. Quote, justice to them means treatment, accountability, and making sure this never happens again. Another death isn't justice. Folks, I'm not going to weigh in on the penalty or anything like that right now. Hang tight. Meanwhile, they are of the belief that the tragic death of the Reiners is, quote, a catastrophic failure of treatment of the mental variety, rather than a premeditated crime. Quote, Nick is seriously ill. They believe ending him won't bring Rob and Michelle back, and it won't fix what went wrong. Now, I don't have any problem with families trying to figure out what to do in this. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So, I'm not holding these kids accountable. They're adults, I know, but they're the Reiner kids. I'm not, listen. The problem here, though, is where the blame is being placed according to these reports. The idea that they or Hollywood or anybody is going to say that this was not premeditated and that this was something that we're going to blame on doctors instead. Come on. You know what this is about? We're not going to blame the people who should have called 911 at the Christmas party. We're not going to blame the celebrities who allegedly said, no, don't call the police, don't bring them to my house at the Christmas party. We're not going to blame, the fact that this guy was allowed access and that people heard, allegedly, Rob Reiner said, I'm afraid of my kid. We're not going to blame the people who said, we don't need to, this is a family thing. And we're not going to blame him, even though after he did it, he allegedly went to a seaside hotel, booked a room with a view so he could watch the ocean. No, we're going to say that this is, whose fault is it? Doctors. Why? Who knows? Panel, I think this goes into a level of ludicrous. I mean, this is just insane to me that we're going to blame doctors for this. This guy, if he actually had the wherewithal to go to a hotel afterwards, book a hotel room and go watch the sunrise or whatever after whatever happened that night, I'm sorry. This is too much. This guy, it's on him if he did it. The insanity plea, I think, is going to be very difficult. But this one gets me a little angry, so I'll just hand it to you guys so I don't slip up and say something I shouldn't. But I don't want to blame. I don't want to blame anybody other than the guy who caused his parents to suffer for minutes before they were out.
For the crime itself, I agree with you, right? Like, there's a lot of factors to this. Now, what I disagree with is the framing of this conversation, because I do feel there is a broader conversation to be had here about the state of mental health in this country, right? Because we've been talking about it in our years. Yes. Yeah. Like, the problem with a lot of this is a lot of it isn't healthcare anymore. It's an affirmation, right? People will go in and they just get told what they want to hear, and nothing actually gets done. So there is an argument to be made here as to why, like, maybe the doctors did fail this individual as far as seeing that there is a bigger problem in place here, that he probably should have been put in some sort of treatment sooner. Now, I'm not going to disagree with that argument there.
We need to be able to commit people, Tom. That's the problem here. What they want to do is they want to blame the doctors now instead of, we've coddled this. Like, if somebody actually scares you and your parents and your family for however long, we need to have a way to say, no, you need to be held for a while. Like, put some restraints on it so we don't go crazy. But there doesn't seem to be a way to do that. Right. At least of which in California.
Anybody who's a parent knows, especially if you have adult children, there's only so much you can do to help them, right? Like, at a certain point, you can't keep pushing because they're an adult. They're going to do what they want to do, and you legally have no bounds or boundary to work from. And at this point, it's like, what do you do as a parent? Like, I understand where the Reiners didn't want to give up on their son. Obviously, you wouldn't want to as a parent either. But this whole argument of, we don't want this to happen again, it's a failure of the system, that has nothing to do with the crime that's already been committed. The crime itself and what maybe led up to the crime, to me, at this point, are two completely different things, right? Like, we can have a different conversation on the other side here of, the lack of mental health, or, the fact that there's too much of this affirmation going on in mental health right now, to where people aren't getting committed or getting the help they need. And I can say this even from personal experience with people in my family and other places where I've seen this shit. I'm sitting here going, how is this person not in a facility? Right. And a lot of times what happens is a lot of these facilities will just turn people away in a sense of, oh, no, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. It's like bullshit. Sorry for the S word, but yes, there is something wrong with this person and they need help. And you just continuing to tell them that they're fine and they're okay and there's nothing wrong with them is a problem. Now, sitting here and trying to blame that his parents' success and all this other crap and all these other things that are causing him mental issues. Look, sorry, you need to grow up at some point, right? Like, the kid needed therapy to get it through this stuff. And maybe his parents should have shut the door on him sooner. I hate to say it. Maybe they should have said, look, we've done all we can. We can't coddle you anymore, Nick. It's time for you to grow up and figure this out on your own. We've done everything we can. But as a parent, I understand where it's difficult to do that, right? So at the same time, what does that have anything to do with any of this other crap? Nothing. The man committed a horrific crime. at the end of the day, and he needs to go on trial for that. And it's up to the jury and everybody else involved with the trial to figure out what happens to Nick at the end of the day, right? Like, I get the family also saying, like, another death is not going to make this go away. It's not going to make it any better. And that's usually what happens. I've seen this, I don't know how many times, in a case like this where you have a family member who commits this kind of a crime, where the rest of the family, and surprising to anybody else who's not involved, going, why would you not want them to be punished by death or have some horrible, because all it's going to do is just cause even more hurt and harm to the family as an overall thing. But at the end of the day, look, they lost Nick anyway, right? So what are you going to do at this point, right? Like, to me, making this big deal about it in the public, what is it going to do for your, cause at the end of the day? It's not going to help Nick at all.
Right. And the argument here, Tom, is, that this guy who breaks into their bedroom in the middle of the night and ends them in a way that causes agony and is not immediate, and does it to his elderly parents who can't defend themselves, who have to know that the other person is also going through the same thing. Like, this is the worst possible way. And for him to do that and then go check himself into a hotel, right? This guy can't ever be allowed to be out again if he did it. Okay? He can't ever, because if you'll do that to your parents, why would you not do it to anybody else? That's your parents. And the excuse for this is, well, his parents were it was hard to be born into a family that was so darn successful. Well, try the opposite sometime and see how that goes. Culture, Lauren, your thoughts on this one? Where does the blame lie? Can they come up with this defense of saying, as a family, it's the doctors, it's the doctors, it's the doctors? He says.
I think that again, not placing, the responsibility on the person who committed the act is a huge problem. I think not recognizing that the lack of follow through by the entire family when it came to him getting the help he needed is an entirely other conversation. If they want to play the blame game, then they're certainly, you can't level it at a medical industry that they've helped shape through their politics over the course of the last decade. Because as Tom suggested, I agree. I mean, we no longer have health care; we have affirmation care, and we no longer are dealing with the actual facts of any given situation. Because had at the moment of this particular encounter, he had been sent to a medical facility, which is where he needed to be when he decided to go off the reservation, we probably would not have ended up with this outcome. And again, this comes down to some culpability that we tried to talk about once before. And I was saying, who is actually really responsible here? Well, ultimately, at the end of the day, it was up to Nick. If Nick really wanted help, the opportunity was afforded him on multiple occasions. If people in his family were genuinely concerned at that time, they would have followed through and followed up to make sure that help was provided. I'm going to say it this way. If they really genuinely don't want this to happen again, he needs to be either imprisoned for the rest of his life or, some other outcome that makes it so that he never enters society again. Because as much as mental illness is a societal issue, Tom already mentioned, and I agree, there's only so much you can do as a member of society or even a family member, that could be enforceable in any way. Nobody bothered to secure his presence in a place where he couldn't do anybody any harm, and ultimately they have some culpability. So does the family have some? Maybe they don't see it that way, but I do. Well, I mean,
I want to be careful, Culture, and yeah. Everybody's going to have their opinions about this because when there's a catastrophe like this, we want to figure out how we could have prevented it, right? Or what could be done to not allow this to happen again. I have real sympathy for the family. I also am open to finding out where the facts lead us in terms of, and that's the thing. It's going to get ugly.
But it's not
the skeletons are becoming the closet in the trial.
But and that's the problem, right? We already kind of have some of the skeletons already out there because we already have fingers being pointed at, particular redheaded comedians that, may have been involved in a conversation
I'm sure he's going to have to give a testimony as to what happened.
So I when I'm looking at it, I have to look at all aspects of this, and from what we have so far, and again, I agree with you. We don't have all the information as of yet. There's going to be a lot of people that could be held to account. This isn't an Amber Heard situation, okay? This is something that, there definitively was something done by one person to other people and should never be allowed again. So in that way, I agree with the family. Let's never have this happen again. Do you know how you solve that? You just assure that he never makes it back into society. Problem solved.
I agree mostly with Tom and culture, but I would make one important distinction. This is a tragedy, no matter how you look at it. It's a tragedy for the Reiners who are no longer with us. It's a tragedy for Nick. It's a tragedy for his family. It is not surprising that they would want the public to be merciful because this is their brother, nephew, member of the family. But laws are for society. They're not for the family members. They are to make sure that we can live in a civil society together. And when you are administering justice, mercy is supposed to be a component, but you're not supposed to make those decisions emotionally. You are supposed to make them based on the law and for society so that the mass of people is protected. And in this case, one person is responsible for this crime. He had multiple attempts at rehabilitation that in the article itself, and apparently according to people on background, they're saying he didn't take seriously. That makes it his responsibility and his alone. And as much as people may have wanted to help him, as much as people tried to help him, he did not improve. And he made an irrevocable choice, took his parents' lives, allegedly, and now he has to be responsible for that crime. There is no way to say that this can never happen again without ensuring that it never happens again. And that's why you have the law and justice to be that dispassionate judge and to determine, is rehabilitation possible here? He's already attempted rehabilitation several times. At this point, he's given all the evidence that he needs to give to show that that's not a viable option. If you're serious about making sure this does not happen again from this individual, there's only one way to effectuate that outcome.
Pulling Hollyweird to the sensible center, the mainstream middle where money is made is not easy, but folks, you make it easy to make videos each and every day because sharing time with you is a great honor, and we never take it lightly. An attitude of gratitude every single time we have the chance to shine with you. Until the next time, we only ask that you click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And folks, don't worry about paying any kind of tuition for this free class and how entertainment works. You are on scholarship. Highest IQ on the internet. That's you for sure. Until the next time we have the opportunity to spend time together, folks, we just ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as ever, keep having fun.